Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, he has a beautiful book called Al-Dalail Al-Qur'aniyah fi anna al-ulum al-nafi'ah al-asriyah dakhilatun fi ad-din al-islami, which is Quranic evidences to show that beneficial contemporary sciences enter into the religion of Islam. I could quote from this book, but to keep it, to avoid lengthening the whole thing, what we take from this book and its contents is that Islam does not reject science or the scientific method, the true scientific method, and investigating the creation, understanding causes and their effects, and manipulating that knowledge for the benefit of mankind, right? And for the atheists or people like them to claim that we are backward and that we are ignorant, this is from the greatest of slanders, because anyone knows who looks into the Muslim world in the East and the West that the Muslims, they are engrossed in this type of knowledge and this science. We have doctors, physicians, engineers, and even the common person, he knows how to fix a car, this is a vile slander. To say that Muslims are opposed to science and learning and progress, and this is like, really, it's kind of a below the belt type of punch for them to really say this. It's not true. But what we want to understand really is that what they claim to be science, they are claiming that they are discovering secrets about the universe and how they've come to the conclusion that there's no creator. Right, and they're using science for this. This is not true. They're not using the science for this. There's two types of science. There's a science which is religion, and there's a science which is a method. Understand? Right? There's a science which is a method, and there's a science which is a religion. And the science which is a religion, they have put certain assumptions in there. Right? They've entered philosophy into the picture. They've said the type of science we want to do is philosophical naturalism or methodological naturalism. What is this? What do these terms mean? What are they really saying? What they are really saying is, we're not happy living in a world where there's a creator. We don't like that type of world that operates in that way. Right? So what we are going to do, not with any evidence, not with any proof, not by using the scientific method itself to prove this position, what we are going to do is we are going to we're going to have this thing called metaphysical naturalism or philosophical naturalism, meaning that we're going to eliminate the creator out of the picture, and all we want to do is just understand cause and effect mechanisms. Right? We're not going to allow any discussion of, that there's wisdom behind this and there's a will behind. No, we want to throw all of that out, and we're going to operate on this basis. Right? This is like a religion. Right? You've chosen this view philosophically. Right? You haven't proven this view by way of the scientific method itself. Right? Science is a method. What you've chosen here and described here is a philosophy and an approach. It is a religion, right? So now I want to quote for you some statements of those honest, truthful atheists who readily admit that this is the case, right? So here are some statements. The first statement is, is from a man called Daniel Dennett. Daniel Dennett, right? This is a famous neo-atheist, right? This is from those people who try to revive atheism. Atheism in the early 20th century, it had a relapse because one of the main ideas that they used, it's an idea called logical positivism, right? I won't go into the details. There's a man called Anthony Flew, right? He promoted it, and atheists became very happy about this, in the 30s, 40s, 50s. But then they realized that it was false, right? Because it couldn't meet its own criteria. So from the 50s,
atheism kind of like they had to put their hands back in the pockets and go in the back streets and kick cans and this, there was nothing to do. These new atheists, like Daniel Dennett, Hitchens, Krauss, and these people, right? These are what we call the new atheists. This is the new breed who are trying to come and deceive us again, right? With the same simple, childlike, simple kind of analogy which I gave. So I'm going to mention to you some quotes from this Daniel Dennett. What does he say? Right, and again, he's a prominent neo-Darwinist and a new atheist. He says, scientists sometimes deceive themselves into thinking that philosophical ideas are only at best decorations or parasitic commentaries on the hard objective triumphs of science, and that they themselves are immune to the confusions that philosophers devote their lives to dissolving. But there is no such thing as philosophy-free science. There is only science whose philosophical baggage is taken on board without examination. Right? What he's basically saying is that science and the scientific method can never ever be free of any philosophical baggage. Right? And these scientists, when they speak to us and tell us, oh, we don't have beliefs, we only have certain knowledge, they're lying to themselves and they're lying to us. Because there has to be philosophy behind the science that they are doing. There has to be assumptions and things like that. The next one is an even better one. This one is a very famous evolutionist. He's called Michael Ruse. Michael Ruse. He's famous. He does debates. He, has writings, books, whatever, well published. And he said in an article that interviewed him, how evolution became a religion. He says, he's an evolution philosopher, Michael Ruse, R-U-S-E. Evolution is promoted by its practitioners as more than mere science. Evolution is promulgated as an ideology, a secular religion, a full-fledged alternative to Christianity with meaning and morality. Evolution is a religion. This was true of evolution in the beginning, and it is true of evolution still today. Right? And then he's actually got a book, Darwin as Religion. And this is an evolutionist saying Darwin as Religion, a book that he wrote. He says in that's published by Oxford University Press, right? So these are not like, quacks or whatever. These are the people themselves, right? He says the theory of evolution given by Charles Darwin in the 19th century has always functioned as much as a secular form of religion as anything purely scientific. This is a clear admission from this guy here. There are other statements here. Another one, Richard Lewontin. He's an evolutionary biologist. He makes another very revealing acknowledgement. He says, it is not that the methods and institutions of science somehow compel us to accept a material explanation of the phenomenal world. But on the contrary, we are forced by our a priori adherence to material causes to create an apparatus of investigation and a set of concepts that produces material explanations, no matter how counterintuitive, no matter how mystifying to the uninitiated. Moreover, that materialism is absolute, for we cannot allow a divine foot in the door. What he's admitting here, basically what he's admitting in simple words, is there's nothing in the scientific method that's proven to us, or that can prove to us, that the universe is only material and there's nothing beyond it. There's nothing in science that's compelling us to actually hold this view. No. Rather, right, we have previous convictions already. We have previous assumptions already that we are bringing onto the table. And it's those beliefs and ideas that are forcing us to accept only a materialistic explanation of life and so on and so forth. He's readily admitting to you. He's readily admitting to you. In fact, there's another one as well called Thomas Nagel. Thomas Nagel, here we are. Thomas Nagel. This guy's an atheist, philosopher. He has a book, Mind and Cosmos, Why the Materialist Neo-Darwinian Conception of Nature is Almost Certainly False. Right? He's an atheist, right? And what he's admitting in this book, he's saying, look, what makes me choose atheism is not like science. It's purely because I don't want to live in a world where there's a God. I just can't accept that type of world, right? And so because I'm not comfortable with that, I prefer like some sort of atheistic, materialistic explanation. So he's readily admitting, and he's written a book to show that the whole past century and a half of materialist neo-Darwinist science is almost certainly false. Right? Tell that to a Pakistani atheist sitting in Islamabad or in Egypt, haughty and arrogant, thinking that he's the elite of the society and he doesn't follow parables and fables, of the past. Tell that to these people are living in cloud cuckoo land because they don't know what these people are admitting. These are shrewd people in the affairs of the world, right? And some of them are honest, like this guy here, and they are readily admitting that it's not science. It's just that we don't like to live in a world where there's a God and we're going to be resurrected and we're going to be held accountable. We can't live with that idea. So we just want to live, and we conduct our science on that basis. Not that the scientific method has actually shown or proven to us that what we are believing in is true. So anyhow, these are some quotes. There was another quote I wanted to mention here, if I can find it. Okay, I think those are the quotes. So I guess this next point then, which is point number 5, was that we as Muslims don't deny science, we don't deny the scientific method. This is an absolute slander to claim that we do, and this is actually from our religion, and Muslim scholars have written books to argue for the fact that science is based upon like scientific method. They're actually included within the religion of Islam and within the worldly sciences which Islam encourages and it promotes. That is a slander. You can't attack us with that, and you can't say that we are backward, ignorant, foolish. This is a gross slander. At the same time, we have these atheists, neo-atheists, new atheists, neo-Darwinists, right? They are at the top of their field. Daniel Dennett, Michael Ruse. These people are readily admitting that what we are upon is actually, it functions as a religion. And there's nothing in science that's leading us and forcing us to basically, choose these views. We philosophically prefer them, and we prefer to live in a world which is like this, right? So this couldn't be any clearer. Now, this obviously now brings us to the whole issue of, well, okay, how are these atheists then basically arguing by way of evolution, by way of cosmology? How are they arguing that there's no creator? Why are they doing this, and why has this been promoted so much, and why are Muslims being deceived by this? Well, this is where the trick and the deception is, you see. Because whereas these atheists are honest and true, these other people are playing a trick, just like that child in that example. Remember the child I gave you in that example? And there's the simple childlike version. Oh, it fell itself, it broke itself. And there's the sophisticated, deceptive kind of version, the random fluctuations between matter and energy in the room, and all that nonsense, whatever. What they are doing with these speculative theories is they are just trying to say that same thing, but in a very complicated, cryptic, technical way, so that you can't actually figure out what are they really saying then. Like what's the essence of what they are saying, right? That's what they are doing.